All right, a lot of people think I'm crazy when I said there is room for common ground here, and my rationale for that when it comes to this ongoing government shutdown that's now a record is that the two sides have shown flexibility with each other, even in prior comments, even when it comes to the President of the United States talking about Mexico paying for this wall, and in this final bite, maybe not paying for this wall. Take a look.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
We will build a wall, and who is going to pay for the wall?
When I say Mexico's going to pay for the wall, do you think they're going to write a check for $20 billion or $10 billion or $5 billion or 2 cents? No, they're paying for the wall in a great trade deal.
All right, I have no idea how that would happen, all right? But by the way, the Democrats are far beyond reproach here. They, too, have been inconsistent on whether there's an urgency at the border or not. Take a look.
You know, if that's a part of a comprehensive immigration bill is not something that I would be automatically against.
A wall is an immorality. It's not who we are as a nation.
630 miles of border fence that create a significant barrier to illegal immigration on our southern land border.
I'd much prefer the symbol of America be the Statue of Liberty than a big concrete wall.
All right, so they kind of leave you wondering, both sides, as to whether they're really passionate about their respective positions, when those positions over the years, as you've seen, can change. Republican strategist Holly Turner joins us, Democratic strategist Scott Levenson, and finally Fox News contributor Katherine Timpf. My only point in raising those examples, Kat, is that they're all over the map.
Yes, absolutely. And in the past, a lot of Democrats have supported some sort of physical barrier on the southern border, and now they don't. Now they're saying it's immoral, and I think that a lot of it does have to do with the fact that they want to oppose what President Trump wants. This shutdown is going on so long because I don't feel like anyone's really trying. I think that people are trying to kind of boost their brands by saying, oh, I'm so tough against Trump, or on the Republican side, same thing. Oh, I'm so tough against Democrats. I don't see any working together to actually get furloughed workers back to getting paid. I don't see any actual attempts at a solution here.
Well, you know, Holly, I thought all of this would be a moot point because the Mexicans would pay for it.
Yeah.
And now apparently that's not the case, so they're not going to write a check and do that. So if you accepted at face value that was the case, then you're back to square one, aren't you?
Okay, well, I was one of the supporters during the campaign of the president, then the candidate Trump, who was talking about Mexico paying for the wall, and obviously he was talking about changing our trade agreements and boosting the economy.
I don't think that was obvious.
I don't think that was obvious. It wasn't obvious to me.
Absolutely obvious.
He never said, I'm going to extract this from a trade deal.
But we all knew, but that was part of his platform, and they were robbing us. Remember all the rhetoric around...
Pay for it means pay for it. Whether I write you a check or something, if I say I'm going to give you some money, I'm going to give you money, I'll give you a debit card or something. Be that as it may, Scott, I just wonder, the only reason why I raise those examples and some of the Democrat flip-flops as well is just that there is common ground here because they have shown a willingness, that is, Democrats to see there is a crisis at the border and the president to say that we got to do something beyond now Mexico footing the bill.
I do think what you see now, Neil, is what a master of deflection this president is. The Democrats
well, he has a lot of company.
But the Democrats have been fairly consistent about needing a comprehensive view on immigration.
Well, both parties have, right? But they never get past go.
But that's what happens when you fixate on the wall. When you create this boogeyman on the southern border, you don't allow it for a broader conversation about path to citizenship, about the DACA folks. People who've been
I thought we had that with the Gang of Eight. We were very, very close, and Democrats balked. And then during the Obama administration, Republicans balked.
I think actually what you find is more disingenuous than that. It's clear this morning, Neil, that the president had another thing on his mind, which was that he might be an agent for the Russian government. By talking about the border wall...
Well, that is a story in the New York Times that by going after the FBI, he might have triggered that.
This is why he's a master of deflection.
He's still in office and the investigation apparently petered out. And we are going to get into that a little bit later. But, Kat, I'm just wondering where this goes. If the president declares an emergency, it gets the monkey off his back, the shutdown over, but the First Circuit Court is going to weigh in and maybe tell him, stop the building. Then what?
I don't think that the president is going to declare an emergency, and I hope he doesn't declare an emergency because if you're conservative, you're supposed to be against these sort of actions. Remember when Obama said, pen and a phone. People got really upset on the conservative side. I think that this would be the same sort of thing if Trump did
even
declare
Marco Rubio said that. Be careful what you wish for. The next president could come in and just get just as hot to trot to move on climate change.
If you love the wall, so much, and all you want, you wake up every day thinking about the wall, you go to sleep every night thinking about the wall. Even if that's the case, you still should be very careful with how much power you're willing to give an executive, because the next executive will be able to.
What do you think of that, Holly? That it might be his only option, and it would at least he could go back to his core supporters and say, "Well, I tried."
I agree with Kat completely. I mean, he should not.
Does that worry you in and of itself that you agree with her?
It should.
I'm proud to do it. No, it's a slippery slope. I don't think the president is going to go down that path. He doesn't. I don't think he wants to. But I think he's willing to ride this thing out a lot longer than the Democrats are willing.
I'm getting that sense too, Scott, that she's right about that. That this is going to drag on a while.
That's a real shame, because there are 800,000 families that are affected by this, and the irony that the TSA is one of those agencies that are responsible for securing our borders and are affected by this slowdown, by this work stoppage. It's a terrible thing.
What do you think, though, that if using an emergency order, that I've talked to a number of Democrats who privately, before they come up here on the set, are saying, that might be the most palatable solution. It stops, the government shutdown stops, presumably. We can appeal this in the courts, and it stops there, but everyone kind of gets their own piece of cake.
I don't think it's a good thing for the president to be able to hold the entire government for ransom, nor, and I agree with our panelists, to declare an emergency would be a continuation of him just trying to say,
what if it does
look at this.
What if it goes on for months? I had one guest yesterday say that. It goes on for months. I couldn't believe that.
I think that it would be not that much of a political difference for President Trump, because I think his supporters like that he isn't backing down. I think that they think a lot of Republicans have backed down in the past, and I know that there are people who aren't getting paid, and I know that that's awful, but I don't think it matters very much to his supporters. I think that they think...
As the months go on and families get hungrier, those core supporters get tired of the political posturing, and I think eventually that support dwindles away.
But is the president doing this for political reasons? That's the real question, and I don't think he is. I think he made a promise, and he wants to keep this promise.
Well, but that is by far a political promise.
No, but it's
not about
it's to his detriment. I don't think that it's going to help him get reelected to have this government shut down. I don't think it's helping him. But he made a promise. The Republicans did not have his back.
He would lose his base if he blinked on this.
He would,
I think so.
But he's probably already lost some support as well. So I think he hangs on and sticks to his guns. And
I think both sides do.
If the president proposed a comprehensive plan on immigration, this border piece would be perceived as more sincere across the board.
But we'd never get to that point. How many times under different administrations and Congresses have we looked at a comprehensive plan and then it falls apart?
Well, obviously this isn't the answer either, Neil.
Right? Well, you're right about that. It's like one of my diet resolutions. How far are we into the new year? All right, what would Abraham Lincoln do? This government shutdown phenomenon, it's a fairly recent thing in the post-World War II era. But imagine if willy-nilly a controversy comes up and they just shut the government down. What would he have done? What would the country have done? Doris Kearns Goodwin on that after this. Isn't that remarkable? You're getting old when you hear these candidates, and some of them are young enough to be, in this case, your daughter. But I'm not dwelling on age. Anyway, what to make of what is getting to be an increasingly crowded presidential field? GOP strategist Holly Turner is back with us, as is Democratic strategist Scott Levenson, Fox News contributor Kat Timpf. Scott, let me go to you. It is going to be a crowded field. It's open season. I don't know how they even handle debates in the event they have debates here, but what do you make of the tone that's being set?
I mean, we cast a wide net, and Representative Castro will be a good voice on issues of housing and on issues of immigration, but we run the gambit. We have declared socialists. We have philosopher kings. 4 candidates potentially out of New York, Cory Booker out of New Jersey. There's just a wide tent, and there's a lot of room for criticism of this president. And our party is going to present a lot of compelling voices on different issues. I think it's also interesting to hear Congressmember Jeffries talking about health care costs and creating good-paying jobs and staying on a mainstream Democratic message, which is consistent with us supporting the people who are working families in our country.
What do you think, Holly, whether a crowded field helps or hurts the president?
I think it helps
Yeah.
the president takes some attention off of him and maybe lets him get some things done and takes the Democrats' focus off of him as well. I mean, they've got their hands full trying to manage some of their freshman representatives right now that...
Yeah, I wonder what the DNA of the Democratic Party is right now. Are they the Cortez route of, the highest tax rate being 70%? What do you think?
Unfortunately for our country, I think that is the new Democrat Party. I think the days of moderate Democrats are gone. They can't win a primary anymore. And I think we're going to see a very, very liberal field in this primary season coming up. And my fear is that the next Democrat nominee is going to be very liberal, borderline socialist.
That's Scott's fear, too, right, Scott?
Well, I will tell you, it's ironic that we're in an age where we're hearing Republicans attack the integrity of law enforcement and the FBI. So it seems if any party is narrowing its base, it's the
there are many in your
Republicans.
party that are questioning whether ICE are animals, so I guess it works both ways. Let me get your take, Kat, on whether it's Congresswoman Cortez and the push for a 70% top rate. Other more moderate members of the party back away from that. But I was talking to the incoming House Budget Chief, Congressman Yarmuth, about his push to raise corporate taxes, not up to 70%, but up. Let's look at this. What about on the upper income? Are you looking to raise taxes on that?
That's not a top priority of mine. I have no problem with having a progressive rate that goes higher for super income individuals.
Are you in that 70% camp?
Well,
the
I'm
top
not
rate is 70%.
I'm fine with looking at that, but I think the most important point is there's just not enough revenue available there to make the kind of investments that I think Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez wants to make, the Green New Deal, pay for Medicare for all. There's just not enough revenue there.
All right, so he wasn't poo-pooing the 70% rate as much as he was saying that, even if you did get it up to there, you couldn't pay for everything that she wants to do. But he is looking to raise corporate taxes from 21 to 28%. So taxes under a Democratic president working presumably with a Democratic House, if that were still the case, maybe a Democratic Senate, would push for that, right?
Yes, absolutely. And especially we've seen how being very progressive can make you a sort of media darling, right? And Representative Castro, he's among those that are more progressive. He's someone who's for Medicare for all. He's not someone who's more of a moderate Democrat.
But he's not for a 70% tax.
Right, of course. But he is for Medicare for all, which in the past, if you think about back when Obama was president or was running for president, anyone would have scoffed at that idea and said, oh, that's crazy, that's ridiculous, no Democrat would want that. But now, more and more Democrats we're seeing having a push towards these more leftist policies. They're moving further and further left. And the media is covering people who are further and further left. So I think I see the party moving that way. And then star power obviously matters when it comes to an election, right? We saw that in 2016 clearly. So I think that we're going to see more coverage of people who are more progressive, and I think we're going to see the party moving further left, the Democratic Party moving further left, in order to appease that wing of the party.
But I did want to get a sense from you. Do you think that the party wants to hang its future on raising taxes?
No, but I do think that if the national debate is whether the greatest Western civilization in the nation in the world can provide health care for all its citizens, is a good debate for our party. And the fact that other Western nations have been able to figure it out and we quite haven't figured it out yet is a challenge for us, one that I think we have greatness to achieve, but that should be a national debate. How do we provide health care for all?
How would the president respond to this?
I would argue that he is going to do what he can to give people personal choice, which means excluding a whole bunch of people from health care.
What do you think, Holly?
Well, I mean, you say that Castro is not in that camp of 70%, but we don't know that. I mean, if he really does want Medicare for all, that begs the question, right? How are we going to pay for it? But I do think that the fastest way to get a wall built is to implement a 70% tax, because you're going to need it to keep all of the business owners here in the
Scott
country,
should look at his bottom line here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. The president now is he's tweeting out a lot of stuff today. Now it's Jeff Bezos, the Washington Post, shares of Amazon falling, as you've probably heard this week. That is looking like a power couple that will be the world's richest couple, whether together or not. They're breaking up, and this could change the equation for pricey divorces by far after this.